We're calling to order the Board of Directors meeting of the Landings Association for August 26th. I would note the absence of Kevin Crouch, who may be joining us remotely, and Marion Mackel, who may be joining us later. May I have a motion to excuse their absences for now? Don, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Looking around, I see no guests. If they come later, we will record their presence. And so we will move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda, including the minutes?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
That leaves us with the report from the Landings Golf and Athletic Club, and Tony Marino is sitting in for Mark Lassner.
Thank you for having me. Probably the two biggest things that are probably in people's minds, what's going on with the Franklin Creek project. We're still waiting on the county for the permits. We were a little bit late in getting them the final documents we want. Pinion is our contractor and they're ready to go. They already have their team in place. So as soon as we get the word, we're going to start working on parking. The other project that's going on is Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge is on time. We look like we're probably going to have our opening the first week of October. The new drains that we put in to run water off, because that was our wettest golf course of all. Even in the heavy rainstorms, it worked fantastically. So that's been good. On the Oak Ridge campus, just to give you a heads up, we are going to be moving ahead. If you're familiar with where the carts would park as you go into the Oak Ridge restaurant, we're cleaning up that patio out there. We're actually putting in a fire pit. We got rid of all the just overgrown bushes. It's going to just be a great place when people come off or go to dinner that you're going to be able to sit. As well as, if anybody's up there, you'll notice we have started putting the conduit in for lighting around our putting green. It's going to help us in our sales literature. So if you're sitting and we're taking people on a tour and they see the soft lighting there, plus we have a lot of younger members that in the winter months, they're coming back, and if we can give them an extra half hour or an hour to putt. Something that's been suggested, and we're just looking at it, possibly lighting one of the driving ranges for maybe an hour or two. So that's not a plan, it's a suggestion. That would have to go through our task force, then to our committee, then to finance, and then to the board. A couple of things. We've been very grateful to the people that keep joining our club. As of July 31st, we're ahead of budget. We were budgeting 3,400 members, we're 3,429. As you probably know, we raised our initiation fee, so the new members that are coming in are helping us pay for an awful lot of things that are going on. Almost done. Many of you might be aware, we decided this year that we were going to invite every member to a coffee with a board member. By the end of on an average of 1,000 invites, we're getting about 40 people showing up. We're getting more people showing up. We're actually getting a lot of great information. Town hall meetings are wonderful, but nobody wants to really stand up at the microphone. So people are being very honest. We've had a lot of good positive feedback. We've got some great criticism with suggestions. So we're continuing those. Hey, like that great.
At least you have the suggestions also.
No, but that's what we've asked. And it's been great because people have said, I think you should, we've got this, but have you thought about this? And as well as all, when somebody gives you, a suggestion of how to make something better, that to me, that means an awful lot more. So we're continuing in food and beverage. Our food and beverage numbers are running even with the amount of downtime we've had with the rain. We're continuing, we're doing more clinics for the kids. With that we're also doing more pop-up dinners. We've allowed, if somebody's a single person or they're widowed, and the meals are so big, they can ask for just one instead of a portion for two now. So we're trying to be a little more caring that way.
Very difficult to do. Very difficult to do.
It's trying. We're trying to do some of them, but if you call and ask.
You have to call. I mean, and then you get the runaround, and then eventually.
If they do take their name and drop us a note, because this is what we're doing. And we can only correct it if we know there's an issue. Just a couple of last things. In our summary, we do several waves of surveys, and what comes in as our number one, 91% of all the surveys we get is food and beverages. Those are our number one amenity from the club. Number two, believe it or not, I thought it would be golf, but we're getting 83% at wellness, golf 75, pool, and then club events, and it goes down and down. So it helps us as a board steer which way we're gonna go. Last but not least, we had an opening in our wellness director position. Great gal, moved on to a really nice position. Starting this week, we have a new person coming in who will be taking her position. I can't remember Sanders' last name, I apologize. But she'll be starting this week, and she's got a really great background, and actually she's in the process of getting her club management certification, which the last person did it. And we're excited that she's coming, and if I can answer any questions, I rambled, I saw 5 minutes. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer if I'm able.
Do you know where Sandra's coming from?
She's coming from a country club in Ohio. She's been there a few years. Prior to that, she was out in Tucson, Arizona. In Tucson, Arizona, she was managing 2 clubs with over 200 acres in both clubs. So she's got food, beverage, golf, youth activities, and that's the big weakness we have as a club, by the way. We've really worked on, we're doing great with the kids 11 and under, but the tweens for us, the only places they have a place to go, they go to the park and they sit at the tables, or they go into the wellness center and they do their dating there. So one of our, they sit there and on the phone, it's like, there's no place for them to be. So that's a key objective for us. I mean, the kids need a place to go, and we have 1,200 kids here in the community, so that's one of her KPIs to come up with some more plans.
Very good. Any other questions for Tony? Thank you very much. New business?
Yeah, a couple of items to mention.
Welcome, Kevin.
I think he was saying, ask if he had anything. She just saying welcome. So, couple of things to mention. Piggybacking on the successful board quarterly drop-ins, we're now doing senior staff, I think, monthly drop-ins is what we're trying. So we had our first attended one. We did a good job of advertising it. We had 15 people show up. So we have a write-up that will go out tomorrow as Wednesday Wisdom with links to articles, because when people had questions about stuff, if we already had an article, we wanted a link to that as well. So we have that in there. So we're excited to also get some constructive feedback. It helps. I'd rather hear it in person than on the social media somewhere where we can't do anything with it. So
You don't have a form.
right. So that's been very helpful to us. The other one, as y'all saw, with the IP shutdown of the mills, Evergreen is trying to work through their backlog of debris. They still are open to us in the club for dropping debris off, but they have to shut it down right now to the residents and contractors because they don't know what's going to happen when this closes down. Sean, I don't know if you have any new information on that or not.
We don't. I can just tell you the 2 mills that were closed, the Riceboro took about 80% of our material, and Savannah was about 20%. We are working with a mill in Allenhurst, which is a little further. Kind of the magic window is 45 miles. Anything further than 45 miles, price has to go up to cover the shipping of the materials. And of course, timing couldn't be worse. 2 chip plants are closed for remanufacturing right now also. So out of the 6 different locations you could possibly take the material, there's only 1 that's open right now. And so our goal really, as Carl said, is to get, obviously combustion of that material if it sits too long is a major concern. So our goal is to get as much out as we can. And the only other entity that we're still going to allow in is the county. And for our Tuesday pickup, only for the landings. And that's mainly because the only place that the county picks up palm fronds is on Skidaway Island because we take the material. So if we were not, and they were going to take that to a different location, they would also start restricting the palm fronds, which is pretty high on our list of materials that get picked up.
Any questions? Yes.
What is the impact on Northgate backups going to be with the reduction in shipping traffic coming in?
I don't think it's gonna be a major impact because the most of the impact is gonna be the 7 to 11 contract, 7 AM to 11 AM contractors coming in. Sam, do you have a different thought on that?
Yeah, Don, thanks. I just got that email today. So, yeah, that's a good question. And like Carl said, I don't think it's going to be significant, unfortunately. The people usually coming in are doing business in here anyway. So they're paying for a daily pass or whatever, and then they're just buying X number of dome tickets. I've asked Debbie to run the numbers for us, but the problem therein lies that, one person may buy 50 dome tickets. So we know that 50 were sold, but was that 5 people or 20 people? So, but yeah, let's put it this way, it will positively impact us, but how much, I don't think it's going to be significant.
Negatively impact the budget, right, Jessica?
Yes, sir.
Budget and even more so that our residents,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
and Sean pointed that out, if you're removing trees, how much are you gonna have to pay to get them hauled off and everything, so that's.
But, there's only one other site other than ours in Chatham County. And the day we went and restricted, they sent out a notice to all customers that they increased their rates across the board. They've already reached out to the tree companies and said they want all of their hardwoods delivered separate from the pines. They're not taking any debris as far as like scattered branches, that kind of stuff. And if it's dirty loads like with land clears, they'll reject it altogether. And they're almost at capacity as it is right now too. So everyone's really scrambling, trying to figure out what to do with this. The only other option is landfill. And when you're paying for trees to be disposed of by the ton or by the pound, the cost is going to go way up. And we are honoring any tickets that were bought out in advance. Some of the tree contractors will try to buy about a month's worth in advance. And so our goal is to get kind of all those collected in. So there will still be some tree contractors going in there that have bought tickets in advance, some of the larger guys.
So when will we know the net impact of all of this on the operation?
I think they're still trying to work through that because they've talked about even doing an incinerator, which I have some concerns about and would want to look at because, as you know, if we just have a burn somewhere on the island, the smoke travels everywhere and then we get complaints about not only the smell, but allergies, asthma, that kind of stuff. So I'd want to look at that technology. Sean, I don't know if they've talked any more about that at this point.
Right now, with the contracts they're working with Allenhurst, we'll be able to support just our general operations between Club Association and just Chatham County. It would need another source to be able to open back up how we were before. Another source and not two to be able to get rid of the material.
Under our legal issues, Tom, will this impact what you've been talking to them about? And do you want to wait until legal for that? But
Sure.
yeah.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions on that or any other topic that I could answer? All right, Jessica, financials.
Right, the financial information begins on page 15 of your packet and will be for the period from January to July 31st of 2025. Total cash at the end of July equaled $7 million, and investments equaled $9.5 million. $63,169 of interest earnings between our capital and operating accounts in the month of July. Total operating revenue equaled 7.7 compared to our budget of 7.2 million as of the end of July. And total operating expenses before depreciation totaled 7.4 million compared to the budget of 7.3 million. That's a 286,000 net revenue over expense, which is 413,000 better than our budget. Much of that better than budget revenue is for the vehicle registration, performing better than our budget related to our annual vehicle registrations, rental income performing slightly less than our budget due to the drop of a carrier from our Crown Castle cell tower lease. In the other category, we had a large violation from a property owner earlier this year that also impacts our professional fees for legal costs that were associated with that. And our Comcast revenue shares performing more than budget, however less than what we saw in 2024. On the expense side, the IT support is a timing difference. That's due to our database transition, showing IT support performing better than our budget. That project is still continuing. Engineering studies performing better than budget, also a timing issue of when those studies have been performed versus where the budget was placed. Professional fees, as I mentioned, are more than our budget. There's expenses related to the violation that was incurred and our staffing expenses performing more than budget. We have 2 departments that are budgeted at 90% staffing, which are Public Works and Security. And for 2026, we are looking to budget those at 100%. Capital reserve expenditures as of the end of July totaled $3 million. 58% of that on road expenses, 21% storm drains, 15% on bridges, structures, and equipment, 4% on community paths, and 1% on lagoons and marinas each. Several projects have been completed through this year that were planned for our capital reserves account, and of these projects, we are at $61,000 better than budget for those that have been completed. Our members' equity at the end of July equaled $15.1 million. That's a $2.3 million increase since the beginning of January. And our accounts receivable aging on the non-assessment accounts that are 60 days past due, we have 17 accounts that still have a balance and 7 assessment accounts that still have a balance remaining compared to 9 of last year. I do want to give an update. The 2026 budget process is well underway. Carl, myself, and Caden, our budget analyst, have already met with 4 departments for their internal budget reviews, and we will be complete with the last 3 by the end of this week. I will be presenting a budget update to the board in September, and it will depend on what that looks like, if we'll go out to the budget liaisons before that or after I come back to the board and present where we are at that point in time.
If we need to make some decisions based on what the numbers are looking like, would rather get a sense of the board before going to the budget liaisons and then saying, all right, now let's go back to the budget liaison. So we got to see after we get through on what does the roll up look like. So that's where we are.
We want to make it as seamless as possible, and if we go to budget liaisons first and then come to the board and there's multiple changes, then that may make it confusing for the finance committee and conversations going back and forth between the liaisons. So more to come. Good news is we did receive a notification from the Internal Revenue Service on July 21st that our first quarter of 2021 employee retention tax credit has been processed, and I spoke to an agent today. So she has released that, so we should receive the check between 4 to 6 weeks. It's been a long time coming.
4 years.
Yes. Any other questions? Sure.
I think you said it was either at the finance committee or at the working group that there was gonna be the liaison, Enoch. When are you planning on doing that?
So that's what's gonna depend on, when we get finished with our internal review and staff will have to look at where we are at that point. With everything combined, then it will depend on if we're ready to come to the board and have some more discussion, or if we are at that point ready to go to the budget liaisons and report out where we are. So it's gonna depend on.
He's asking about training for the liaisons.
So we had a few slides on the finance committee PowerPoint, and I can send that out to you again. It just shows the role in the process. We will be distributing all of the information to the liaisons prior to their meetings. Caden will be setting those meeting times up, but right now it's a TBD of when that will be. He'll send that to you in paper. The meetings will be virtual and in person, and we'll also have copies of that information for you when you arrive. But it'll be sent prior to your meeting to review.
A notional timeline that will be engaged in that role?
I would prefer September. However, we have a few more weeks to get comfortable with things, and that may involve coming back to the board at the September board workshop before I want to go to the board budget liaisons, just due to, like I said, making it as seamless as possible and having all of the information as cohesive and wrapped tightly into a bow as we.
So if we're within parameters we feel comfortable with, we'll go to budget liaisons before the board. If we're a little bit out of that, we'll still do it, but if we're like, whoa, we need to make a couple of decisions here, we wanna get the board input before we go to the liaisons. All right, thanks Jessica. Aaron, community development.
afternoon. Happy to be here to present to you the community development activity for July. To start off with, we can go over where we are with our permits issued. This is the first month where we've had less permits issued than the previous year. However, don't let that fool you. So we had 111 permits versus 119 the same time last year. Our ARC applications are up again, 27 versus 16. We're continuing to see very long agendas and a lot of activity in front of that committee. In terms of our summary of construction activity, we had one new home completed, so that's 6 year-to-date. One new home also broke ground, so we're still at a total of 19 active construction sites. We had 7 major improvements, 74 minor improvements, 16 dumpsters, pods, and porta-johns, and 11 of those permit extension requests. For our trends observed, we have the permitting activity. It has reached unprecedented levels. So this is the last 21 years of permitting activity. As you can see, it hovered around 200 or so. Where we're at right now is 926, which is almost where we finished 2020. In the out years between 2022 and 2024, our highest numbers were around 1,300 permits. We're expecting to see about 1,600 come through at the rate we're at right now. Private property maintenance violations this month. We have 13 versus 49 this time last year. I know that looks like a very big difference. I want you to understand that that's when we brought on a new inspector, and we had suspended some of our proactive inspections during the time when we were short-staffed. So this is a little bit of a bubble catching up to that. So you'll see that too with the courtesy notices. Also, we had many of them that came through in July of last year. So it was 15 versus 62 the same time last year. And then following right after that was when we had some hurricanes. So lots of activity in this time last year. In terms of the summary of inspection activities, we had 339 site visits associated with ARC inspections. Our proactive inspections, we had 1,170 properties that were reviewed, and then 93 properties were re-inspected as follow-ups for active cases. We had 16 properties in violation resolved. 88% of those were without formal written notice. In terms of our violations that we found in the community, they broke down with landscaping being the highest with 55%, ARC related at 16%, home maintenance being 18%, and then driveway damage being at 11%. And we did not have any dead, disease, or hazardous trees this last month. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Off the top of your head, can you tell me how many homes have been built since 2020?
Since 2020, off the top of my head, let's see. I know that there were 209 vacant lots, and we're down to less than 100, so over 100, probably 110 homes, I would say, roughly. Some years we hovered around like 25. I think last year we actually finished with only like 13 or 15 homes. This year we have a number of them, probably 6 or 7 homes that are going to be finishing in the next month maybe. So you will see that number by year end. We're probably going to be closer to 20, 23, 24 homes.
Are you seeing the major rehabs that I saw up there in Marshwood?
You know, I haven't run an analysis to see where those are. We can look at that to see where the permitting activity. When you look at the permitting overall, it's really scattered all over the community. What's coming in front of ARC, some of those more intensive renovations that we see, where they're adding on second stories or expanding the footprint significantly, many of those are in Marshwood and Palmetto. We're seeing those 2-bathroom, 3-bedroom homes turned into 5-bedroom homes and things like that. So we are seeing some of that kind of activity in those 2 areas. We don't see that so much in Deer Creek or in Oak Ridge, but we do see a lot of that in those 2 areas.
I think that would be really interesting analysis to have. And we talk a lot about what it's going to take to renovate houses in Marshwood, given how expensive they are. And given the price of coming to the club for an $80,000 price tag to join for golf, the expectation is a house that matches that. And so it'll be interesting to see where that stands right now.
Yeah, we can certainly look into that for next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Tim, security update.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Go through the July and a couple of year-to-date statistics. July crime stats, Part 1 crimes was 3, murders and thefts increased from 1 to 3, and vandalism was 0 to and remained flat. The Part 1 crimes that happened in July, a check was stolen in Ford, so that scam is still going on. There was a wallet stolen out of a person's home. They believe it was a vendor. And there was a golf cart stolen out of a garage. The suspect was known. It was a dispute over some money, and the golf cart was returned, and the victim did not want to press charges.
Neighbors loving neighbors.
July golf cart stats, again, 0 complaints, violations increased to 3, and unlicensed driver was 2. Overview of citations, you can see an increase from 2 to 19, and then the fines, of course, was 100 to 1,250.
July 2026?
Sorry about July 2026. I think Erica had the crystal ball and was looking for it. As you can see from that, overnight parking was probably most prominent. One of the other things that we're getting a lot of attention to is trailers and boats parked on property overnight. So again, that's prohibited, and there's a fine associated with that. August appeals, there you see what they just heard back on the 13th. One case was for a trailer, as just mentioned. One was for a stop sign violation, and 3 were for unlicensed drivers. Again, these were just heard, haven't heard the final verdicts on all of those. But last year's, or last month's appeals, I think 6 total appeals, and all of them were denied. Yes.
So the unlicensed drivers were golf carts?
Yes.
And you said that in July there were 19 citations. If you go back 2 slides.
Total citations, yes.
Back one more. Citations issued.
Right, so, and that could be parking on the street overnight, that's all these
So
citations.
this is no Guardian Pro, so there were no
No Guardian
speeding
Pro.
violations in there?
Well, the Guardian Pro is still in op as of today. It's been a struggle. We've sent it back, got it, thought it was working, sent it back again. As of today, it's on its way back to us again. Hopefully we'll get it out in the field next week.
A new unit.
Yes, and that's one thing, I gotta say, the vendor is very responsive, although we've continued to have problems, and Michael, God bless him, he's really, powered through it. And they've worked with us very well. And finally, they just said, you know what, we're sending the new unit. That one just had gone out of its year warranty and no charge, not even for the shipping, so.
Are the fees for, let's say, running a stop sign, are they the same
Yes.
for golf carts as they are for?
Okay, so
vehicles?
our fee schedule and structure, we have moving and non-moving. So if you run a stop sign, that's a moving violation.
Does that equal what it would be for an automobile as well?
Yes.
And I saw you moved the golf cart sign on Landings Way South again. Now it's in the sun, which is great. It's right by the whatever we call it, right by where you go into the nature reserve.
The radar placard
Yeah.
for the golf cart.
Yeah.
We'll move that around occasionally to get the best locations and to get some data points. So, more news to talk about. I'm working with Chatham County Police Department again for the scams. We had a pretty big one out here. I think a lady got taken for several tens of thousands of dollars. So I'd really like to do a joint educational piece with them and invite the entire membership to come and attend it because it's a huge issue. And I think we need some people with the Secret Service and the Chatham County Police Department to kind of address what are the trends that they're seeing.
Kim, excuse me, was that check taken out of a mailbox?
Yes. Yeah. the security department volunteer program. We're gonna resurrect that. So there'll be a call to action out there. Anybody who's interested, go online to our landings.org website. I believe it's under forms and then security volunteer program application. Fill out an application, that'll come to me and we'll start vetting some applicants and volunteers. So,
And for people who don't know, it existed pre-COVID, then went away, it's now coming back, it was quite successful when it was around.
yeah, it really was. We got a lot out of it, and I think they got a lot of it. The volunteers got a lot out of it as well. So hopefully we'll get, at one point in time, there's about 60 volunteers. So hopefully we'll get that turnout again. And then more importantly, and most importantly, the Public Works crew is going to be at Deer Creek Village Gate Thursday. And the Oak Ridge Gate, Deer Creek Village Gate, they're going to replace some of the loops in the ground. So please expect some closures there and rerouting. We're going to try and get everybody to go through the Deer Creek North Gate and then of course the main gate. So bear with us while we finally resolve that problem. Again, a recap there, got hit by lightning, we believe, really had a lot of damage. We've replaced pretty much everything, every component there. So, the loops will be the final piece of the puzzle there.
And Tim, just if we can make sure that we give as much advance notice as possible, just not only for our residents, but for them telling their vendors and guests, et cetera.
Yeah. That, and then I also, if you're a big fan of Waze, I go out there and put it in Waze, the road closure. So that's another thing that
Good.
we're
Put a sign out, says, ahead of time, a couple of days ahead of time, for those who don't read emails or.
Can we?
Usually if they see the orange sign, they automatically detour around and don't go, so usually it's only during the actual.
We'll make it a different color. It's just telling them, hey, this is gonna be closed on these dates. We even put it on the electronic billboards.
Yeah, we do it on the exit lanes.
Right.
And we will have, I believe, Tim, they're working on right now the security to have a guard at both gates, so we will be able to get people in through the opposite lanes. The longest delay is once they put the magnetic loop wires in the asphalt, they have to put an epoxy resin over the top to seal them. And so you just have to have that dry so that a car doesn't go over and the tackiness pulls everything out.
And with the work, crews and everything there, again, my preference is just go through the north gate.
Yeah.
Minor inconvenience.
But if somebody does go through that way, we should be able to get them through.
And when is this?
Thursday.
We're trying to work with our vendor for this. The closest one we were able to get was out of Alpharetta, I think it was, somewhere in eastern Atlanta area. So they're actually motivated to get done quickly and get back home.
Mm-hmm. Sean, when you say quickly, how long do you expect them to be down? I know things can arise, but.
A few hours for each site. And the longest, the work doesn't take long. It's the curing of the epoxy.
All right, thank you, Sean. The paving contract.
All right, I'm not asking for money today, I'm asking for money for the next 30 years. Turn to page 36 in their package, you'll see the staff report. One thing that the board had asked is that we could go out and look at some of these more long-term with some of our larger asset contracts with some of our vendors. We did, Dylan and myself sat down with Bennett Paving. And we are just coming off a 3-year agreement with Bennett Paving. They've been a great partner over those 3 years. We were able to sit down and really work with them. I really enjoyed the process that we went through with the last 3 years. So they're very amenable to another 3-year agreement with the association. Our last 3-year agreements were for $20.50 a square yard. They only increased by $1 per square yard, which is, I think, a great thing long-term for the association. We will tie this to the Georgia Department of Transportation's asphalt index, so there is an indicator in there if there is some kind of major dramatic change in the markets, that the pricing could shift a little bit. However, our goal is to try to stick to this $21.50 for the next 3 years. As this compares to market right now is anywhere between 24 and 28. And actually, since we wrote these reports, I've heard of one contract in Hilton Head area that was actually $30 a square yard. So the index isn't changing too much, but the demand is out there, and that's one of these things that is really giving us kind of a step ahead, is getting a negotiated contract, getting our timing in place, and then also scheduling out the replacement of those assets. So with that being said, I'm looking for approval for a fixed price agreement with Bennett Paving for the years of 2026 through 2028 at $20.50 per square yard.
So moved.
Second.
Well done.
Sorry.
Isn't that the odd couple?
And well, I'll let you all finish.
Yeah, get a yes vote.
Yes.
All in favor?
I,
And then we are looking at something very similar with Southeast Pipe Survey. Good news, they are amenable. They're actually looking to try to grow into the Savannah market. Right now, all the crews are traveling typically from Blackshear and even further south on a regular basis. And so this actually is a benefit to them to try to coordinate and schedule a certain amount of work to justify bringing an office and putting a crew here, which would also be another win, I think, for the Savannah area, the Savannah market. So we are.
As I said, we're trying to do the same thing with dredging, so we look at a typical time of the year instead of moving it around and, you know, some quantities. Trying to get all these things locked in multiple years at this point.
And when you're on a 3-year fixed assessment, it helps to lock these in.
Sean, one question. Can you tell me how the indices work? And have we ever had an increase because of that?
So what this contract does is it really locks in our labor, our material, or not as much our materials, but our labor, equipment, and a lot of our timing. The last 3-year cycle, we changed anywhere between about 10 to 15% in the market, both up and down, all of which was consistent with what Bennett had kind of planned. So we ended up billing out directly at the unit cost we had in the agreement. It's really in there for any kind of wild swings. If we had an oil embargo or something like that, then you'll see kind of a huge increase, and then we can justify or renegotiate a price based off of that indice. But it kind of gives it a little bit more of a symbiotic relationship that if there is a kind of catastrophic or something, that we can make adjustments.
But we still get the lower base cost.
Correct. And it's only for the material side. It wouldn't be for any of the others.
Any other questions for Sean?
Thank you.
All right, committee and special reports. Finance, Rosemary.
From finance, we're just waiting. Waiting.
Marion, governance.
We have a change to the rules and regs dealing with unaccompanied, say that right, cyclists. And on page 37 in your packet, there's a highlighted section that discusses that change. And it basically precludes unaccompanied cyclists. And they have to have a sponsored resident if there's more than, well, we always have to have a sponsoring resident other than a house guest. And then if there's more than 4 cyclists, there are other requirements that we've imposed for sign-in and the sign-off on a property use form and a hold harmless agreement.
And the maximum size cannot exceed 15, so the very large groups that were causing great consternation by some of our residents will not be permitted, the max is 15. We have a motion.
motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Any questions for Marion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Bill.
Just one question about security. Do you go to them or do they have to come to you?
They have been providing a list prior, but we will go to them as well and then give them a little 2-minute safety briefing about rules of the road. You gotta stop at stop signs and things like that as well.
Stop at stop signs.
Novel
Yes.
concept.
Good luck.
All right. Anything else from governance?
No, we've been going along on our to-do list for the year.
And the report from nominating is that we are moving forward, just, we'll do the rest of it later, but the,
Yes.
strategic water.
Sure. No meeting during August, but I'm pleased to announce that we had 70 volunteers signed up for Catch the K. And there are 4 training classes. I've already done some, but by the end of September, we'll have 70 people enrolled and ready to go. And I'm still getting requests for people to join.
And we have a speaker next month, I think.
And we have Dr. Clark Alexander from the University of Georgia Oceanic Institute here to present to the board September 23rd.
Good.
And Rob, does that 70 equal what you think needs to be on hand?
Yes. It's not a surprise, but about 95% of the people who volunteered live directly on the marsh. I've had the opportunity to research their addresses and already have assigned sites for them to check out. And I have almost all marsh area covered. But there's a little bit more we can, amp up. And also there's more than enough members to cover all the marsh hole golf holes through Bob Hanley to map that as well. So I think it's so far, everything's tracking well.
There seems to be a good positive interest in it, so that's good.
Yeah.
The rain has helped.
Good timing.
God was looking down and helping Rob.
Mosquitoes will be gone by November.
The county has been spread,
They are
so
spreading,
that's good. That's good. Any other directors' comments or questions? Okay. President's report. Just to let you know that the club and association through the LCLC and other operating staff members are continuing to cooperate. The county joint tree policy has been approved. We have a stamped approved copy. They are doing joint wildlife management endeavors, which hopefully will help everybody on the island. We are working jointly to make sure that rules are adhered to across the community, from driving to fishing to stop signs, etc. Yes, stop signs mean stop. We're working on stormwater management responsibility, and that study is virtually complete, and at some point in time we will have a presentation on that. We received assistance from the club on our hydraulic hose crimping device, which allowed the forklift to get back into service promptly, so we appreciated the club's efforts on that.
On a Sunday even, so that's fantastic.
And the joint cooperation, we think, benefits not only each of the other entities, but it also is helping the community, so we're happy with how that's moving forward. We do want to say a special thanks to all who applied for the TLA board for next year. The nominating committee is primarily composed of residents. We have selected a slate of 6 candidates, and we will be holding a meet and greet for our residents to meet them on September 16th at the Palmetto Ballroom. So that should go on everybody's calendar. As I said before, not to beat a dead horse, but residents, please follow the Georgia law on watering, both as to days and times, because these rules do apply to you. They apply to all residents. Please do not put debris on top of the storm drains. It falls into the drains, gets into lagoons, causes flooding and a need for lagoon dredging, and with all the rain we have of late, that has been exacerbated. And at our drop-in last week, that is the staff drop-in, we had 15 attendees. It seemed to be very productive discussions. Everyone seemed to appreciate it. And the next one is September 16th for the staff, and then the following month for the board drop-in. And as Tim indicated, for all those who recall the pre-COVID resident security volunteers, stay tuned. They will in fact be coming back. So we're looking forward to that. And that takes care of the president's report. Anything else before we adjourn to executive session? May I have a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.